First thing I got to do is put these pads down both sides. I've got the top kind of laid out there so it just can kind of start stretching out a little bit. But these pads consist of this piece here and then this foam that'll go in there. But the first thing I got to do is get this in place, and the outer edge needs to be not overlapping, but down within about 1/8 of an inch of this rail here. So I'll kind of just put a couple of staples to get it positioned, and then I can staple across each bow. And I'm going to just be stapling on the inside here. So if I want to go kind of all the way right to the front edge there and be about, right about there looks good. So I'm going to put a staple right here. And I'm going to come right back here to the next one. Stay about 1 inch there. Right there looks pretty good. Come on back, keeping my equal distance here to this bow. I'm about 9.25 inches between the two felt strips. So I'm just keeping it right there. Actually, I'm going to take this one out. I think I could come down just a tiny bit on it. Try that again. Yeah, about right there looks good. Okay. That's not too bad. As you can see, I'm not afraid to take a staple out and redo it till I get it to where I think it's where it needs to be. Okay, I think that's pretty good. So now I'm going to go ahead and run a row of staples all across here. This piece of foam, now this piece of foam can go right in here. Just like that, and it's going to get glued in place. I'm going to just spray this. Spray this a little bit. Okay, that looks pretty good. I'm going to put some staples across the front here, and I'm not going to put any staples here or here, and it'll get stapled back here as soon as I know exactly where that bow is going to be located. Now that the pads are installed, I can turn to this top, and you can see I've taken this rear rail off once again. And what I've got to do now is take this portion of the top. There's a little cord that is sewn in here. It's going to wrap over this and tuck back in to this little groove right here. And because this has got a little dimpled area, it matches the dimpled area in the top. I can just get those two centered, and that'll center the top side to side. And it's not going to be a real easy task. Okay, I've got it started. That's the first step. And it's just going to be a matter of working it all the way around on both sides, little by little, trying to get it popped up in there. And that concludes that step. You can see this little groove I'm talking about in the underneath side there where the cord and the material gets tucked into. Now I've got this weather strip that has to get put right around there, and another cord gets pushed right into here all the way around. And everything's kind of tight. I'm going to try and go ahead and get my cord started in there, working my way out as I go along. Okay, this is the cord that goes in there, and I've got a little WD-40 in a cup with a brush, so I just kind of went along here with it. That should help push it in there better. And I'm gonna fold this in half so I can find the center right there. Well, and then it's going to take a little bit of force to seat it completely in there. Okay, and that's basically the process. So now I'll just continue both directions, get that all seated in. All right, I believe that's this side. And this is sticking out a little bit, so I'll be trimming that off, but I'm gonna wait to do that till I get it on the car, make sure I know where I wanna trim it. Well, I just realized I goofed up. I've got these straps that need to attach on the underneath side of here going forward, and they need to go on before I wrap this stuff around here, because there's a couple of little retaining clip and a couple of screws that go to the back side of this, and there's no way I can get those with this top on here like this. So you get to learn from my mistake. So what I've got to do is peel this out of here. Back to about right there. Take the rubber out. Take this material out. It's too bad, because this was the hardest part, going around these corners. Oh well, that's life. Now I can peel this back. And it's these two holes right here that this little clip goes on. And then of course the belt lays under it just like that. Sort of like that. That wasn't too bad. Now I'm back to where I was. Got my straps installed on both sides. So now what I want to do is attach these little hold down catches to the inside of the frame right there. And you can see they've got some adjustability. The holes are oblong and actually a little wider than the screws, so I can move them up and down and side to side. So what I'll do to start with is just center them right on the bolt holes there. And then after I get it on the car, if any adjustment is necessary, why, I'll make it then. I've got this piece here bolted back onto the framework. I've got my rear latches in place and adjusted so where this piece comes down, it locks into place nicely. Now I'm going to go ahead and attach these straps that mounted to this lower rail to this bow right here. And it's going to attach, let's see, this will be up here. So it goes just like that. So it'll go right here. And I've got it marked. I measured from here down to the bottom of the bow on both sides. Got it marked the same. I had this piece locked in position and was holding these straps upright to see that they were kind of parallel to the window. All looks good. And in my top kit, this is a Key Auto Tops manufacturer made it. And I'll give you a part number before the video's over. But these straps come with this little template. And if you align these, if you line these across the top here, then depending on what year model Corvette you have, you got a different place to cut. For 63 to 67, I'm going to be cutting right there. And I've already actually got it marked on this side. And so I'm assuming this line will go to the top side of the bow, and then I can put some staples right here. So I'm going to go ahead and staple it. I'm not going to cut that excess off just yet, though, in case there's an issue and it's not right. I can adjust it somewhat. Now I'm going to lock this rail back down, pull that up and see how it looks. Okay, now if I pull this bow all the way up to where it's tight on those straps that I just put in there, I can see that I've got plenty of material from the back window to stretch over the bow, and also material from the top to come back over it as well, because those have to overlap. So I think I'm okay. So now I'll go ahead and cut that little bit of extra material off of the end of those straps. I'm just going to take a razor blade and very carefully try and cut right along here. What I've done in here is attach 3 bungee cords up to the front rail from the back bow there, because I wanted to get those straps pulled up pretty snug. So that'll position the bow. Now I can attach the upper part of the back window section to the bow, and then the top section over the top of that. I've also got some bungee cords attached to the front of the top here, kind of pulling it forward. I've got some clamps here. I still got to pull this forward about 3/4 of an inch right there, you can see. But it kind of holds it in place. And then I can come along back here and pull this up tight. and put some staples in that bow. One thing I noticed though, this bow here looks like maybe it needs to be back just a little bit. I'm gonna go look at some pictures online of other Corvettes and see if this bow looks like it's straight up and down like mine is, or maybe just leaned back another inch or something. So I may have to alter that a little bit, but otherwise it's kind of starting to take shape. It's a lot of work, a lot of back and forth, and you know, I'm just a one-man show out here, and this is actually the first convertible top I've ever installed, so I'm kind of taking my time as I try to get it figured out. All right, I've decided after looking at some pictures of other cars that this bow is going to look a little better if it's just a little bit further back, maybe about 3/4 of an inch to an inch. So I'm going to peel this stuff off here and pull these staples out right here and move it back just a little bit. And I think that looks a little bit better. It's kind of, you know, between this bow and this bow, I've got the angle kind of halfway, and it looks like it's going to lay a lot better on there. Here's looking at the driver's side. Just got a better contour going across the top here. And for reference, I'm going to give you some measurements from the very front edge of this header up front here, right down the center, to the center of this bow here is 13.5 inches. Now it's fixed. You really don't have much adjustment on it. It kind of locks into a position. To the center of the second one, 24 inches. And 34.5 inches on the back one. Actually, maybe 34 7/16 back there. So 34 7/16, 24, and 13.5. And I went ahead and on this inner layer stapled it down to this back bow, so we can't move around now. So I think this is the final position it's going to be in. So I'm going to go ahead and trim this excess material off here. Just need to be careful you don't cut into your strap right there. Next up is trying to get this window pulled up here as snug as possible. So I'm going to tuck this one in, this top here behind that, so I'm not stapling into that. And I'm going to grab this pliers right here and try and pull that up tight best I can. I'll just start right in the center. Now I'm going to remove those bungee cords that I've got in the inside. I already removed the center one. I'm going to remove these two here so I can go ahead and staple across there. Now I'm going to trim this excess off here. Okay. Looking pretty good. Now I'll pull that back there and staple it. I don't even think I'm going to have to cut it. It looks just right. Okay, now I'm going to try and get these side flaps in place. And what I've done is raise the back up a little bit to kind of relax this material. That lets this come forward and pretty much line up perfectly right there. That's where that needs to go. Down here you can see I've still got to stretch it a ways, but I'm going to try and attach it up here first, put a little glue just in this area, and then put a bolt through that hole right there with a big washer on both sides. And then I'm going to let this back down, and then hopefully that'll allow this to come forward a little bit and I can get it pulled in place. And there's a hole right there, so I'll do the same thing down here. And then if I can get this latched again, then I'll pull this forward like I'm doing up here and get it attached. I've got glue just about these top 2 inches here and bolted that down. So that's got this right in place, both height-wise and front to back. Now I've got to get this pulled down here, but you can see it needs to come forward about 3/4 of an inch. So I'm going to take this spacer out back here. Let this come down. And I'm going to try and get it locked in. On both sides. Okay, you can see it's pulling it pretty good there. Now I'm going to roll it out in the sun and put a clamp on here and a bungee cord up to the front or a strap or something. Start putting some pressure on it. I'm going to spray this down with some water, and between the water and the sunshine, I'm hoping that I can get this pulled up to where it needs to be. And I actually just called the tech support at Key Auto Tops to see if this was a bad idea or not. And they said, no, put it out in the sun, spray a little water on it, put some tension on it, which I've got. Bungee cord stretched pretty tight, pulling forward, another one pulling down on it, and just let it set for a while under tension, and it will stretch out some. What I need to do is get it to stretch far enough to where I can attach this around that vertical support right there. So I'm going to spray water on the outside and on the inside. It's been out here for about a little over an hour, and I turned the car 90 degrees, so I got direct sun on this side here, and you can see it's pulling out pretty nice. It's right there is the edge of the framework, so I just need to pull it a little bit and tuck it in and glue it. So I'm going to go ahead and put some contact cement on the frame and on the inside of this flap. See if I can't get it folded around there somewhat nice and neat and glued into place. And then I'll put a couple of bolts like I got right here to tie it down until I'm ready to put my weather strip on there. And I'm just using this Weldwood contact cement for this. Okay, let's see what happens. what I need to do is do this in a couple of stages. I just can't pull it any tighter than that. It just won't pull any tighter than that. Just doesn't want to pull all the way up there. You'd think a 1/4 inch I could pull it out, but it's fairly tight. So I'm going to leave it like that. Maybe I could take that loose in a couple hours or tomorrow and tug on it again. Maybe it'll want to give a little more longer it sets here. But now I'm going to go ahead and turn the car around and do the best I can on the other side. Now I'm going to go ahead and move to the front, and I'm going to tuck this right around here and make a chalk line right on the nose edge of that front header, and then I'll take these bungee cords off and pull this top back just a little bit and wrap around and get that chalk line about a 1/4 inch further more wrapped around underneath, and that's where I'm going to attach it. Okay, I've got that line marked. That's right at the peak of this front header. I put some felt in this channel on the header right here. It's 1/2 inch thick. It matches the felt in these other two bows here. Now, when I pulled the top off, there wasn't anything in this channel, but it just makes sense to me that something ought to be there to help, you know, make this transition coming across here. I also put a little bit of foam. This is 1/4 inch foam, which was left over from the pad that I cut off of the back end, because it kind of dipped down right there where it attached to the tack strip. So now when the top comes across here, it can kind of pull down and have a little bit of support maybe. So now I'm ready to get this top folded under there and stapled in place. Okay, I've got center lines marked on the top and on the frame. So I'm going to get those lined up and pull that chalk line over about a 1/4 inch. Right there. And put a staple in there. And I'm just going to kind of work my way across about every 4 or 5 inches. Put a staple, and then I'll pull the top up and see how it looks. Okay, I think I'll fold it back down and go ahead and put a whole bunch of staples all the way out to these seams, and then I'll worry about getting this tucked under there. like it's supposed to go. So let me open it back up. Just a few more things to do. This trim piece here tucks up underneath here. I've got the center marked and the center of the top. I'm gonna put this back down in order to get that on there. I'm gonna put some contact cement on here and get it glued in place to start with. And then I will put some staples in it. But the contact cement will help hold it in place. Start by getting this lined up right here. Now I'm going to pull this up, take a look at it. If it all looks good, I'll lay it back down and staple it. Now I'm going to go ahead and install all this new rubber weather stripping I've got that goes in and around the side windows. I also got a hardware kit that has all the nuts and bolts and screws and what have you that go with it. You cut everything off flush with the back of the rail here. Then you got to cut this much off of just the seal, because this goes in here just like this. And then remember, there's a screw here, one here. So that'll set in there just like that with a couple of screws holding it in place. All right, now that that piece is in place there, I can put this side piece on, and I'll just remove these bolts that are kind of holding the material in place. I'm going to trim this flap off, and then one piece will go right here. Got another piece that goes across here, and then one that goes across here and kind of wraps around under the top here. Here's how this piece looks. Also, you've got a piece of weather strip that goes across the front there, so don't forget to put that one in. And this piece on this side didn't fit very well at all. I actually had to cut about 3/4 of an inch off the front of this, and I had to drill a new hole for this to line up properly in order for it to match back here like it's supposed to. The other side wasn't too bad. I only had to cut about 1/4 inch off of here. But anyway, that's that. And while you got the top folded down here, putting this piece on, then you can get in here and tighten up this nut on this piece that goes under here, because you don't have access to that really when the top's in the up position. This little trim piece here gets stapled across the seam across the back here. And now, once this is all stapled in place, this piece here is supposed to kind of push right back against the little bead there and make that nice and tight there. At least that's what it's supposed to do. Then it gets finished off with these little metal tips on the ends. And here's the part number for this top that I got, made by Key Auto Tops. And here's what the final installation looks like. The back glass is stretched nice and tight, no bubbles or wrinkles in it. The canvas is stretched pretty nice and tight all around. So all in all, it wasn't too bad of a job. And for first time doing it, I think it turned out pretty good. Very pleased with it.